What's up guys, my name's Liam, and today we're going to be taking a look at the brand new Finemax Noah. This does have a solid magnesium shell, and it does have a pretty unique feeling, and I was pretty surprised when I found out that it does also come included with a pretty high quality mouse pad. So how does it stack up against competition, and more importantly, could this possibly be the perfect gaming mouse for you? Let's check it out. And before we get started, I did want to let you know that this was sent out to me, but everything you'll be hearing in this video today is going to be my own words and my own opinions. It did come included with this carrying case. It also did come with a USB-C to type A cable. I don't know what I did with it. I was using it to test the latency on this mouse and I did misplace it, so I do apologize about that. Then here's a look at the carrying strap, and here is the wireless receiver. It does have a rubberized bottom down here, and this does go up to a 4,000 hertz polling rate. So starting out over here on the bottom of the mouse, here's what the layout looks like. This button down here does allow you to change the DPI, and then you just simply have your on and off button over here. And the skates that this does come included with are these white colored PTFE skates, and these have a pretty similar feeling or glide to something like the stock skates that come on the Sora V2. So when it comes to the general feeling of this mouse in the hands, it does have that kind of solid and stiffer magnesium feeling. If you were to push down here in the middle portion, you do feel just a little bit of bending there, but nothing that seems too major or anything like that. If I were to squeeze really hard on this, obviously since it is made out of full magnesium, it is really solid. I don't believe that there is any type of additional coating on here. It does just kind of have the raw metallic feeling. So as you can clearly see, there is a bit of a texture on here where there would generally be holes, but there are no holes. So it does make it feel just a little bit more solid. I don't really personally like the feeling of the holes on my fingers. If you're used to something like using a Final mouse or anything like that, then you're gonna know exactly how these do feel on your skin. But since this doesn't have any type of an additional coating on or anything like that, if you do get sweaty hands, the surface can become a little bit more slippery. For mouse 1 and 2, this is using the ever so popular Huano Blue Shell Pink Dots. Still some of my favorite mechanical switches. And I've always talked about magnesium mice, how I really do like the feeling of them. Reason being is on mouse 1 or 2, it's a lot more stiff of a material. So even if you're to come up here in the front, you don't get the same type of almost bendy feeling that you get with some plastic mice, or I should say a lot of plastic mice. So you just kind of get a little bit of a more solid click implementation even up here in the front. And as you see, this mouse, it has very minimal to almost no pre-travel, and even the post-travel on it is even really great. Even if I click up here in the front, it doesn't necessarily make any type of contact with the base, and even the left to right on this mouse feels really solid. It does get a little bit more weird if you're to click in this area right here. It doesn't really feel like it was meant to click there, and you can kind of get a little bit more teetering just here in the very back. But if you're here in the middle, as you can see, you get like practically nothing. So not the best click feeling if you play some kind of weird grip where you're clicking back here, but anywhere from, I'd say from this point forward, honestly feels really great. The tensioning on the scroll on this actually does feel pretty good. You do get these defined steps. It is a little bit on the lighter end, even though you do still feel a bit of tensioning there. And then the center scroll click, I don't feel like it's too stiff, so it is pretty easy for me to spam. For the implementation on the side buttons, you do get a little bit of play back here in the rear, but it does go away the more that you click here in the middle. You get very minimal pre-travel here in the middle. The post-travel on this, it does have a little bit of post-travel, but it does hit a solid wall back here, and there is a little bit of rocking back and forth here on that rear side button. And same thing, that's kind of a common theme with some of these mice. I do feel like I get a little bit less play on the front side button here, and it does feel a little bit more stiff. But all around, I do feel like the overall general clicks of this with the side buttons, mouse 1 and 2, does feel like they've done a pretty good job. When it comes to the weight and balance, gaming mice manufacturers have gotten really good with the balance in recent times. It's been a long time since I've had a mouse with bad balance, but throwing on my scale, Looks like we're getting about 49.9-ish grams. This mouse is going to be using a web-based driver. Very simple and straightforward to use. Once you connect into it, you can come in here and do things like adjust the DPI, change your polling rate. And when it comes to performance, testing out the 1K, 2K, and 4K polling rates, everything seems pretty solid here on the click latency, and I didn't notice any major outliers. The second I got this in my hands, it did kind of remind me of something, and we'll just go ahead and jump into it. It does feel like almost a smaller version of the Waizowl Cloud. So putting these next to each other, I'm not going to talk about them too much because we will jump into the pictures or the up-close images here shortly. But as you can clearly see just by looking at these, very similar in the overall shape, just with the Finemax being quite a bit smaller. Even just when I kind of grip this in the hands, it does give you the very similar profile over here on the sides with how it goes into the rear hump. But the one difference I did want to mention before we jump into the comparisons is I do feel like the hump feels a little bit more aggressive back here on the Cloud, and it almost gives it more of a type of a rear hump feeling in a certain sense. Whereas this one, the transition from back to front just feels a little bit smoother. All right, and lastly, I'll go and throw it up against the Maya X here, just really quick. And even though the shapes on these is different, like for example, when I'm holding these in the hand, the rear does feel more flat on the Maya X, where as you can see, it is more aggressive and it kind of does stick out and feel wider back here on the rear of this. So now when it comes to the mouse pad that does come included with this mouse, I was actually really surprised at the good quality of this and just how great it really does feel. So the size of this is coming in at 490 millimeters in width by 420 millimeters in height, and it is sitting at 4 millimeters in thickness. It is featuring this newer type of PU base that I've never tested out before, and really this PU base does feel great. I've always been a fan of the PU bases just in general, but the feeling of the touch of this, just when you're holding it in your hands and on your skin, it does feel more similar to Poron to me. And the properties of this base, I do feel like it does feel pretty close to a soft Poron pad, but I would say that just the kind of firmness of it, it does feel just a little bit more firm, and it almost feels like it has just a little bit quicker of rebound and elastic properties. But again, they are really close to one another just with the general feeling. The stitching also does look like it was done pretty good all the way around the edges, and it does appear to sit slightly below the surface itself. They do have their logo up here in the top right hand corner. It is raised up on top of the surface, so if you were to move your mouse over there, you can feel it on the bottom of your skates. So the feeling of the texture of this pad, it does kind of have a little bit of a texture there along both the Y and the X axis, but it does kind of have just an overall smoother feeling in general. So I would probably categorize this almost as a speed pad, but even though it does have a pretty quick glide here, as you can see across the surface, once you start using it and actually pressing into it, it does give you pretty solid control properties, and you can stop on. And I mean, the surface of this, it does feel pretty similar to more of a claw style surface, something similar to the Lethal Gaming Gear Saturn Pro. But as you're using this, it is pretty quick. You get a pretty low sense of static friction, And then clearly the dynamic friction on this does feel a bit quicker as well. So I'll go ahead and I'll drop a glide test comparison between this and the Lethal Gaming Gear Saturn Pro, and this does appear to be a little bit quicker than the Saturn Pro itself. All right guys, so that about wraps things up on the Finemax Noah and the mouse pad that it comes with. I've really been enjoying this combination since I've got out of the box. I do feel like it plays great together, and the shape of this mouse is really great and good to use. The only thing I can really critique about it is I do kind of wish that it did have a smoother surface without these little holes on here, and had a little bit more of a stickier coating, or a more grippy coating, excuse me. But aside from that, truly, like I said, just the feeling of this, the size of it, especially for using this with claw grip, which is my general preference of a grip style, it has felt like a really solid shape, and the performance on it has been really good. All right guys, so if you have any questions or feel like I left anything out, please let me know in the comments down below. If you've enjoyed watching this video and are interested in seeing more videos like this in the future, please drop this video a like and subscribe to my channel. And thank you guys so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next one.